I want to start off by saying these stories may not be the kind of scary stories where you feel like you're going to be murdered or anything, but it's definitely creepy knowing any of these things can happen to the average person. Even you. Let's begin. When I was a teenager, my mom was having a hard time raising 2 children as a single mother. She wasn't working, but my brother was still a baby and he was keeping her up all through the night and was very colicky and always screaming. While I was staying with my grandmother, she went to get groceries at the store. She came back ecstatic for the first time in quite a long time. She said that she met a great upstanding Christian man who gave her $100, claiming that he felt it was called upon him by God to give her the money. He got her all flustered and blushy by complimenting her jacket. She thought this was great because she was really into the biker kind of look. She was so happy to meet such a nice guy. They exchanged numbers and agreed to meet up later for a movie. The guy stopped by and I didn't like him. Something about him just threw me off. I didn't know if it was just me, but he made me overly suspicious. My grandmother taunted him about his beliefs, basically told him that he was full of shit. She was very blunt like that. My mom brushed it off and nodded at everything he said, debating a little bit here and there, but mostly just trying to have fun. My mom went to the movies with the guy and said that it was okay, but kind of awkward because the movie wasn't really her style. She said that she was going to have a few drinks with him at his house and would be back later on that same night. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach, as along with my grandma. I believed this guy was full of shit and was using being a man of God to disguise something worse. He made me really uncomfortable and was overly friendly. Not in a perverse way, but just in a creepy way. My mom came back a few hours later really freaked out. She said that when she got to the guy's house, he had a weird collection of women's leather jackets. Now, my mom loved leather jackets, but was a bit creeped out, so she asked him why he had so many. He claimed women would just leave them there and she could take any one of them she wanted. She was already wearing one. She politely declined, and I believe she said it was when he told her that he would go make her a drink in the kitchen. She jumped out the bathroom window and took off. We thought it would be over by then, but it wasn't. For weeks, he harassed her, leaving morbid and terrifying messages on her door and the car. He wrote threatening letters with crazy handwriting stating that she would be sent to hell and something else about being a vampire. Her or him, I can't remember. There was a lot of stuff about blood. She went to the police and the police said there wasn't anything they could do about the letter and didn't take it very seriously. She was terrified for weeks and eventually took off to another state for a little bit. We never saw him again, thankfully. When I was in 6th grade, I went through a very hard time with severe bullying. I was pretty quiet and shy. One weekend, my parents dragged me along to a graduation party for a family friend of theirs whose son was graduating high school. Since I had been going through a hard time at school, I kept to myself mostly, but I loved art and always carried a sketch pad with me drawing whenever I got the chance. About an hour into the party, the host and my mom came over to where I was sketching and told me they wanted to introduce me to someone who was also an artist. His name was David. He was incredibly nice and had a digital drawing pad which I hadn't really seen before. I was really interested in his digital equipment and he showed me a bunch of artwork he had done. I was so intrigued I hung out with him until my parents were ready to leave. He told me that he volunteered at a free after-school clinic for children whose parents worked and needed a place to go. He said he ran a drawing class there and if I ever wanted to come and hang out with him, I was welcome to. I went to his class several times, but as I got busier with school, I was unable to go and we sort of lost contact. Fast forward a few years. I am now in 11th grade. David sent me a friend request on Facebook asking me how I had been and what I was up to these days. We caught up a little bit and planned to meet up with each other at a local cafe, sketch, talk, and have some coffee. I had moved to a different school at this point. I didn't really like most of the kids in my grade, so it was nice to have someone to talk to who shared my love of art and wasn't completely an immature 16-year-old. We exchanged numbers and planned to make meeting at the cafe a weekly thing. Gradually, we hung out more and more, going other places and hanging out at each other's houses. My parents were fine with this since they considered him a family friend and he was always welcomed into our house. That's when things started to get a little strange. He made an offhand comment one night about how he wished I was 18 and single. I was seeing someone at the time. I tried to make it clear I wasn't interested in a relationship, but really enjoyed his company as a friend. One evening when we were hanging out, he told me he was going to download a, quote, cool app for my phone. Not thinking much about it, I gave him my phone and let him set it up. He explained to me that it would alert you if you were within a close range of someone who also had the app and who was on your friends list. I trusted him and didn't look at it very closely. Around this point, too, I had found out that he had texted my mom and told her a few things I had told him in confidence. I was very upset and felt like he had betrayed some of my trust. A few days later, he texted me asking why I was in a certain area of town. I was out running errands with my mom and didn't really think much about it, thinking maybe she told them that we were going there. A few days later, after my dad and I were taking my boyfriend home around 11 p.m. after having a small get-together at my house, David texted me the next morning asking if I had left my house at 11:05, which is the exact time, I kid you not, the previous evening. I was creeped out by this and started looking at the app he had downloaded onto my phone. For those of you who wanted to know what the app was called, it's called Find Friends, no spaces. It was a little bit more than what he had originally told me. Not only did it alert you when you were close to another friend with the app, it showed your GPS location down to a general location of where you were. You could also set your friend's home and have it alert you anytime they left that location. When I found out all this information, I was so creeped out and deleted the app immediately. He then texted me to ask why I had gotten rid of it. I lied and said it was because none of my other friends used it and I didn't really like it. Not long after this, I was home alone and my mom had forgotten her cell phone on our counter when she had gone out shopping. And David had texted her a bunch of times. I opened the phone and read the text. He basically said I had told him some stuff about my boyfriend. None of what he said was true. It was 100% made up. And he said he was worried for me being in such an unhealthy relationship. That was the last straw. Not only was he being a creeper, but he was lying to my mom, trying to get her to break me and my boyfriend up so he could have a chance with me. I flipped shit on him and told him he could never contact me again. After I cut off communication with him, I found out he was 32, and I was 16 at the time. I told my mom, and to this day she still says that I overreacted and remains on friendly terms with David. A few months ago he contacted me saying he was sorry for whatever he did to offend me and that he was now living in California. If I ever wanted to come stay with him, he would be more than happy to have me. I told him to go fuck himself. If you stuck around for that whole story, thank you. Retelling it was therapeutic for me. I know I was very naive, but I have learned a lot from this experience. This happened to me in 2008, when I was living with my boyfriend, now husband, in Boston. When the economy tanked, I was one of the folks that got laid off, so I was spending a lot of time at home alone during the day. At one point, I remember my boyfriend telling me that a couple guys had been reported in the neighborhood posing as utilities workers. They'd apparently knock on residents' doors saying that they needed to be let in to read the meter or whatever. And while one kept the occupant distracted, the other would rob the place. I didn't think much of it. It was Boston after all, stuff happens. One afternoon while my boyfriend was at work, someone knocked on my door. Looking back, I really shouldn't have opened it, but I did. A guy stood there in jeans, a tank top, and an orange reflective vest. "I'm from the gas company," he said. "I need to come in and read your meter in the basement." For some reason, I thought of the story that my boyfriend had told me weeks earlier. Alarm bells began to go off. I looked at him more closely. The car he had parked in front of my house was a white, unmarked sedan. I didn't see any clipboard in his hands. He hadn't even said which gas company he was from. Did we even have a meter in the basement? I didn't know. We rented and the basement was full of spiders. I never went down there. "Can you hold on? Just a second," I asked. "Sure." I closed the door, locked it, and called my boyfriend, telling him what was going on. "I'm calling the cops," I told him. "Do it," he replied. Dispatch told me that they'd send an officer. All of this had only taken a minute, but when I looked out the window, the gas man had disappeared from my porch. The white sedan was nowhere to be seen either. I stepped outside to wait for the police. A police cruiser eventually rolled up. I waved, but it drove slowly past me and kept going. My heart sank as I watched it disappear around the corner. I was still shaking my head when the gas man pulled up to the curb in his white car again. I should have booked it back inside immediately, but I was angry now and apparently an idiot. He leaned out the window. He looked furious. "You called the cops on me," he accused. "Hell yes," I shot back. "I don't know who the fuck you are. Do you want me to go find the cop and talk to him?" I didn't care. I just wanted him gone, so I said yes. Then I had a moment of common sense and ran back inside, locking the door behind me as he drove off. I never saw him again, and until we moved out 2 years later, the gas company never sent anyone requesting access to our basement. To this day, I'm pretty sure he had absolutely no affiliation with any company and was posing as a guy reading meters to gain access to my house. Here's what scares me the most, though. The reports I had heard about this scam usually involved two men intent on robbery. Why was this guy trying to get inside alone? If he wanted to rob me, wouldn't he need his buddy to distract me? What exactly did he want this time? I don't want to know. I was maybe 11 or 12 at this time. My mother used to always send my little brother with me wherever I went to try and get him out of the house. We didn't always get along the best, but when we did, we usually had fun together. It was the middle of the summer and we decided we would walk to a shop to get a cold drink, because it was really, really warm outside. The shop was literally a 10-minute walk, so my mother never minded us going. We were about halfway there when we noticed this old woman, maybe in her early 70s, shuffling across the footpath in an all-black gown. She had such a bleak, non-emotional face that was quite unsettling. I didn't take much more notice as we continued to walk, and that's when my little brother stupidly decided to shout across the road to her, "Hey, are you a witch?" I angrily hit him and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And then I looked across to try and apologize to the lady. She still had her back turned when I said, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that," still feeling annoyed at my brother's stupid actions, and left, red-faced. The woman said nothing as she slowly turned around to face us. My heart sunk into my chest as she gave me and my brother a really chilling and threatening look. She was then staring at my brother as if her eyes were peering into his soul. I don't know what it was, but something about the look she was giving us completely terrified me and my brother, who was also starting to shake at this point. The woman, still saying nothing, just continued to stand there staring with that horrible, creepy look on her face I won't ever be able to forget. I grabbed my brother's arm and walked on as he kept looking back and continued saying, "She's still looking, Alex. She's still looking." I could feel his arm shaking as we walked. We got to the shop and went inside towards the drinks. We both picked up a can of Coke, from what I remember, and walked towards the register. The line was slightly big, so the shop door was in sight. That's when my little brother spotted her. She was pacing up and down outside the shop, appearing to be mumbling words while she repeatedly looked into the shop, staring at us once again. My little brother had a fit and immediately started to cry. The fear was really hitting me now. My heart was beating faster than it ever had before. Clearly the woman had been angry about this stupid remark, but surely this was way too far. What did she want? I tried to calm my brother down and told him that we should walk down the aisles and wait a few minutes in the hopes that she would leave. But she didn't. She was now standing right at the door, making strange hand signals towards us and still muttering words. This was way too much for me. I ran to tell the manager of the store, who was quick to walk outside the shop and tell the woman to leave. Still scared, which the manager could easily notice as we both still shook there, kindly offered to walk us home. There was no sign of this woman on the way back. I only saw this woman once after, and it was while I was on the bus, and thankfully she never saw me. I never believed in witchcraft or that sort of thing, but nothing had scared me ever more than this. That look on her face. Those words she was muttering to herself. Was it a spell? It sounds stupid, but I'll be honest in saying I've always never had the best of luck. It's been 6 years since I last saw her on the bus. I haven't seen her since. I can only assume she is now dead. One thing is for certain, though. I'll never forget that horrifying look on her face, which has appeared in my nightmares many times.
Bu tarz videoların devamı için bu videoyu beğenip paylaşarak ve yorum yaparak bize destek olabilirsiniz. Teşekkür